I was sitting at the kitchen table, the one that had witnessed every birthday cake, every report card, every late-night apology, and every lie, staring down at the final vendor list for Savannah's wedding. Each name was a mark of my labor: the florist, who'd promised peonies and roses, the caterer with that signature dish Savannah always loved, the DJ who was supposed to play the songs that defined her childhood. My daughter's wedding, the day she would look back on forever. I'd reviewed the list so many times. The words were starting to blur. But I wanted everything to be perfect, at least in the way that a father can plan perfection. I never expected that the perfection I'd been curating would become the foundation for my own erasure. Cynthia's voice cut through the room like a serrated blade, casual but sharp, leaning against the doorframe like it was a stage, and she was waiting for her applause. "Savannah wants Gavin to walk her down the aisle," she said. Each word floated like poison in the air. Gavin Torres. The man she'd cheated with. The man who'd slipped into our lives like a shadow and never left. The man who'd broken this family when I thought nothing could. I could see her mouth forming the words, lips curving as if it were some harmless suggestion. I didn't say a word. The pen I'd been holding, blue ink, the same one I'd signed every check, every bill, every deposit, slipped from my fingers and clattered to the table. A sound that seemed to echo longer than it should have. Gavin Torres. He'd been a coworker once, a friend I thought I could trust. A man who'd asked me for advice on his own family. I'd given him counsel, invited him into our home, let him share our dinners and our laughter. And somewhere along the way, he'd taken more than advice. Cynthia's betrayal was something I'd tried to bury, to compartmentalize, for the sake of Savannah. I thought maybe, just maybe, my own dignity could hold everything together. But now, with her words hanging in the air, I realized I'd been holding together a ghost. She shifted her weight in the doorway like she was preparing to leave. "You can still come, if you want," she added. Her voice was softer, like she thought that might help. But it didn't help. It hit like an aftershock. The tremor after the quake that topples the last standing walls. I stared at her. At the woman who'd worn my ring, who'd built a life with me, who'd promised me a forever that turned out to have a warranty, with a clause she never disclosed. And in that moment, I realized the worst thing I could feel wasn't anger. It was nothing at all. Numbness spread through me like a slow poison, a quiet acceptance that I was now optional in my own daughter's life. I looked back down at the list, at the carefully planned rows of names and numbers, the deposits and balances. Every detail was perfect, every cent accounted for. I'd signed the checks with the same hands that had once taught Savannah how to ride her bike, how to tie her shoes, how to hold her head high in a world that wasn't always kind. Those hands, now motionless on the table, had once carried her on my shoulders, lifted her above every obstacle, shielded her from every storm, and now they were still empty, as if they'd finally understood that they weren't needed anymore. Cynthia shifted again, a sigh in her throat. But I didn't look up. I didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I focused on the list, on the font, on the line spacing, on the final payment, due dates, things that made sense. Numbers could be balanced, people couldn't, love couldn't, betrayal couldn't. But money could be balanced. And in that ledger, I still had some control. I heard her footsteps retreating down the hallway, the click of her heels on the hardwood, like the ticking of a clock winding down. Every step she took was a reminder of how far apart we'd grown, how the foundation had cracked. Long before this day, I didn't watch her go. I didn't want to give her that either. Let her walk away, into the house I'd bought, into the rooms I'd painted, into the home I'd built from the ground up. Let her find her own place in it. My place was here, in this chair, staring at this list, feeling the last vestiges of my role as a father slip away. I could hear Savannah's laughter in my memory. 6 years old, missing teeth, asking me to check under her pillow for the tooth fairy. She'd wanted a gold dollar, gave her 2. I wanted her to know her father was always there, that I would always make it right. I believed that then. I believed it when I paid for her dance lessons, when I cheered from the stands at every recital, when I signed the tuition checks, when I fought the insurance company for her braces, when I took on overtime to cover the dream wedding she'd once drawn in crayon on the back of a napkin, and now, here I was, the man with the pen in his hand. No longer her hero, no longer her constant, just a name on a check, a line item on a spreadsheet. I thought of Gavin, with his easy smile and hollow promises, the man who'd whispered into my wife's ear when I wasn't looking, the man who'd convinced her that what we had wasn't enough, the man who now stood in my place. I wondered if he knew how to fix a bike chain, if he knew that Savannah hated peas but loved green beans, if he knew her first heartbreak came from a boy named Derek who moved away in 4th grade. Wondered if he knew any of that, or if he even cared. I stared at the vendor list until the letters blurred, merging into one long, illegible smudge. The caterer's name, the DJ's phone number, the florist's email, all of it meaningless now. Transaction I'd funded, a celebration I'd built, for a daughter who decided my presence was optional. I picked up the pen, twirled it between my fingers, and let it drop again. The sound was small, but it felt like a final word. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor, and walked away. From the table, the list remained there, a testament to a promise I'd kept. Long after it had expired, I didn't need to cross out my name. They'd already done that for me, and in that quiet kitchen, with the morning sun slanting through the blinds, I accepted that I was no longer the man who paid the bills, or the father who caught every fall. I was the ghost at my own table, and ghosts don't get invitations to weddings.